What the Buddha discovered about past lives. Are you certain that your memory began only at the moment you were born? Can you truly insist that everything you are, with all your inexplicable fears, your inborn talents, and the seemingly fated encounters in your life, is contained within these few short decades of existence? What if I were to tell you that you have lived before, that you have loved, lost, and struggled through countless lifetimes? That echoes from the distant past are still silently shaping every thought, every feeling, every choice you make in this very moment. And yet, even this is not the most shocking truth. The real revelation, the one that overturns our entire understanding of self and the universe, does not lie simply in the fact that you have existed before. It lies in this: the you, the entity you believe yourself to be, the I that is now reading these words, has never actually been the traveler on this endless journey. To grasp this earth-shaking paradox, we must turn back the clock more than 2,500 years to a quiet place we now know as Bodh Gaya. Beneath the wide branches of an ancient Bodhi tree, a man sat unmoving in meditation. He was Prince Siddhartha Gautama, who had abandoned his palace, renounced worldly pleasures, and endured 6 years of severe asceticism to the brink of death. He sat there not to pray to any deity, but with a steely resolve to discover by his own insight the ultimate truth of suffering and the nature of existence. His quest was not a philosophical speculation. It was a direct confrontation, a relentless surgery into reality itself. On that boundless, silent night, when his mind grew still as a windless lake, Siddhartha did not only find an answer to the question, "Who was I?" He uncovered something far deeper, a truth that shook the foundations of all religions and philosophies of his age, and which continues to challenge humanity's deepest assumptions today. His discovery was this: rebirth is real. The cycle of birth and death is an undeniable reality, but there is no eternal soul, no unchanging self that travels through these cycles. This is the central paradox, the most startling truth about what we mistake as the journey of the soul. It is a vast journey without a fixed traveler, a river that flows ceaselessly with no drop of water ever remaining the same, a flame passed from candle to candle without the flame itself moving. This account will take you back to that historic night of enlightenment, following in the Buddha's footsteps. Together, we will vividly explore the 3 great insights he attained, the 3 doors of wisdom that opened and revealed the entire tapestry of the cosmos and the mind. We will decode the intricate mechanics of karma and rebirth, a process driven not by fate but by our very own actions, words, and thoughts. And finally, we will face the shocking truth about the real nature of the soul's journey, a truth that not only reshapes how we see past and future, but holds the power to liberate us here and now. Prepare yourself, for what you are about to uncover may transform everything you thought you knew about who you are. The Journey Across Lifetimes, What the Buddha Truly Found. Chapter 1, The Night Beneath the Bodhi Tree, the 3 Doors of Wisdom. The great discovery of Prince Siddhartha was not a divine revelation, nor a string of mystical dreams. It was the fruit of a rigorous training of the mind, culminating in his attainment of profound states of meditation, known as the jhanas. These were not trances or unconscious states, but conditions of heightened clarity and deep concentration, where every distraction and restless thought fell away. His mind became like a perfectly still lake on a windless night, reflecting every star with flawless precision, or like a telescope polished to absolute clarity, ready to peer into the deepest mysteries of the universe. In this transcendent state, pure, lucid, and powerful, 3 doors of wisdom opened, pulling aside the veil of ignorance that had obscured reality across countless ages. 1.1. The knowledge of past lives, Pabinavasana Satiñana. In the first watch of that historic night, as silence covered the world, the first door opened. A vast stream of memory began to flow, not of one lifetime, but of countless lives stretching back through time. This was not a hazy recollection like our childhood memories. It was a reliving, vivid and complete down to the smallest detail. The Buddha saw clearly. I remembered many past lives, 1 life, 2 lives, 100 lives, 1,000 lives, 100,000 lives, through many cycles of the universe's dissolution and rebirth. In 1 life I had such a name, belonged to such a family, had such an appearance, ate such food, experienced such joys and sorrows, and lived for such a span. When I died there, I was reborn elsewhere. There too, I had such a name, such a lineage, such a life, and dying there, I was reborn again here. This river of memory stretched without beginning. He saw himself as king and as commoner, as monk and as butcher. He was born into noble families and into lives of poverty. He lived as a human being and also as animals, an elephant, a rabbit, and countless others. Each life unfolded before him in full color, with its hopes, fears, joys, and pains. To bring this vision alive, let us recall one of the many stories preserved in the Buddhist scriptures, the Nigroddhammiga Jaka, the story of the banyan deer. In his vision, the Buddha saw a royal forest. He himself was a golden stag named Nigroddha, leader of a herd of 500 deer. Another herd lived there as well, led by a stag called Saka. The king of that land loved to hunt, entering the forest daily, spreading terror and death among the deer. To reduce this slaughter, the two herds agreed with the king that each day, one deer from each herd would voluntarily offer itself for sacrifice. One day, it was the turn of a pregnant doe from Saka's herd. She pleaded with her leader to spare her until she had given birth, but Saka refused coldly, saying the rules could not be broken. In despair, the doe turned to Nigroddha. Moved by deep compassion, Nigroddha chose to go in her place. Calmly, he walked to the place of execution and lowered his head to await death. The king was astonished that such a noble stag would surrender himself. When he learned that Nigroddha was sacrificing his life to save the mother and her unborn child, the king was overwhelmed. Realizing that even an animal could embody greater compassion and nobility than he, the king not only spared Nigroddha, but decreed that no animals in his kingdom should ever again be hunted. Reliving such stories was not mere time travel. For the Buddha, the knowledge of past lives was a profound insight. He saw that each existence was not random or disconnected, but links in an unending chain of cause and effect. The compassionate act of Nigroddha, the stag, did not only save 2 lives in that era, it planted a seed of virtue, a parami of compassion, which would continue to bear fruit across countless lifetimes, ultimately leading to supreme enlightenment. This knowledge was not a mystical power to satisfy curiosity about the past. Its true purpose was to reveal the law of cause and effect and the continuity of life's flow, to show that our present existence is woven from threads of innumerable past actions. It was the first step in breaking the illusion that we are isolated beings, born from nothing and destined to vanish into dust. 1.2. The Divine Eye, Kurupapadanyana, the insight into the operation of karma. If the knowledge of past lives revealed the Buddha's own journey through time, then in the second watch of the night, the second door of wisdom opened and gave him a panoramic vision of the entire cosmos. With the divine eye, purified and surpassing the human, his vision was no longer confined to his personal stream of existence. He saw all beings in every realm dying and being reborn. He saw them clearly, the lowly and the noble, the beautiful and the ugly, the fortunate and the miserable, all carried along by the momentum of their own karma. What he perceived can be compared to a vast living image known as the Bhavacakra, the wheel of samsara. At the very center of this wheel, 3 animals bite one another's tails, the rooster symbolizing greed, lobha, the snake symbolizing hatred, dosa, and the pig symbolizing delusion, moha. These 3 poisons of the mind are the driving engine, the core energy that keeps the wheel spinning ceaselessly. From this center radiate 6 realms, the 6 modes of rebirth into which beings are cast, depending on the karma they have created. The Buddha saw the heavenly realm, Devaloka, a domain overflowing with bliss, pleasures, and long lifespans. Devas dwell in magnificent palaces, enjoying subtle delights, yet even this happiness is not eternal. When their merit runs out, they must still face death and often fall into lower, more painful realms, suffering intensely as they leave behind celestial joys. He saw the realm of Asuras, populated by powerful but envious beings. Though blessed with strength and fortune, they are consumed by jealousy of the gods, leading them into endless conflicts and battles. He saw the human realm Manusha, a unique realm where joy and suffering interweave. This is the only realm where beings have the wisdom to recognize suffering and the precious opportunity to cultivate the path toward liberation. Below these 3 fortunate realms lie the 3 unfortunate ones. He saw the animal realm, Tiryagyoni, where creatures live in ignorance, fear, and instinct, forced into cycles of killing and being killed. He saw the realm of hungry ghosts, beings tormented by insatiable craving and stinginess. With bellies swollen like drums, but throats as narrow as needles, they can never consume food or drink even when it is right before them, condemned to unending hunger and thirst. And finally, he saw the hell realms, Naraka, where those who committed the gravest unwholesome deeds endure unimaginable torments until their dark karma is fully exhausted. To illustrate this law of karmic retribution, imagine two stories the Buddha might have witnessed among countless visions of the divine eye, accounts later recorded in the scriptures. One tale from the Vimanavatthu, stories of heavenly mansions, tells of a poor woman who, with a pure and faithful heart, offered a simple seat to a monk. From that single small act of generosity, upon her death she was reborn as a radiant goddess, dwelling in a palace of gold and jewels in the heavenly realms. In contrast, the Pedavathu, stories of hungry ghosts, recounts the fate of a wealthy man who was miserly to the extreme, never offering even a coin to anyone. After death, he was reborn as a hungry ghost, naked, starving, and wandering endlessly in a desert, unable to find even a drop of water. Through such visions, the Buddha verified a universal impartial law, the law of cause, effect, and karmic consequence. He saw with certainty these beings, because of unwholesome deeds in body, speech, and mind, because of reviling the noble ones and holding wrong views at the breaking up of the body after death, are reborn in states of woe, in realms of misery, in the hells. And these beings, because of wholesome deeds in body, speech, and mind, not reviling the noble ones, holding right view at the breaking up of the body after death, are reborn in happy realms in the heavenly worlds. This was a leap in understanding. The knowledge of past lives had shown him what had happened across his own previous existences. Now the divine eye revealed why and how this happens to all beings. The universe is not ruled by chaos, nor by the whims of an almighty deity. It is governed by an intrinsic moral and psychological law. Every intentional action, karma, is a seed, and the circumstances of our lives are the fruits of those seeds. This insight answered the age-old question of why suffering and injustice exist in the world. They are not random punishments, but the inevitable ripening of deeds planted in the past, maturing in the present. 1.3. The knowledge of the destruction of the taints, asavakaya jnana, the insight into the end of defilements. After seeing the endless cycle of lives and the law of karma that drives it, one final and decisive question arose in the Bodhisattva's mind. What power binds all beings to this wheel of suffering, and how can one break free from it once and for all? In the third watch of the night, as the morning star began to shimmer in the sky, the third and final door of wisdom opened. This was the deepest insight, the wisdom of liberation. Now his gaze turned inward into the most hidden layers of the mind. He realized that the root of all suffering and bondage did not lie in the external world, nor in the realms of existence, but in the inner streams of mental corruption known as the asavas, the taints, or outflows. The word asava means to flow out or to ferment, pointing to psychological toxins accumulated over countless lives, seeping into and polluting all our thoughts, words, and deeds. He identified three primary taints. 1. The taint of sensual desire, kamasava, the craving, passion, and clinging to pleasures of the senses. Beautiful sights, pleasing sounds, fragrant smells, delicious tastes, and pleasant sensations. It is the endless search for happiness in external objects, a search that can never be fulfilled and always ends in disappointment because all phenomena are impermanent. 2. The taint of existence, bhavasava, the craving to exist, to become something. It is the clinging to life, to identity, to the notion of I am. At its core lies the deep fear of annihilation, of becoming nothing. This thirst for existence fuels karma, propelling beings to be reborn again and again, to continue playing the game of samsara, no matter how full of suffering it is. 3. The taint of ignorance, avasava, the fundamental root, the fog that obscures truth. Ignorance is not mere lack of information. It is the failure to see the Four Noble Truths, the reality of suffering, its cause, its cessation, and the path to its cessation. Because of ignorance, we chase happiness in the very places that cause suffering, cling to what is impermanent, and mistake the illusion of a permanent self for reality. With the knowledge of the destruction of the taints, the Buddha did not merely identify these forces, he penetrated them completely. He knew what they were, where they arose, how they could be destroyed, and the path of practice leading to their complete eradication. He saw that when ignorance is shattered by the light of wisdom, when attachment to pleasure and to existence is abandoned, the taints dry up. When the taints are exhausted, the flow of karma ceases, and the wheel of samsara no longer has fuel to turn. In that moment, a great liberation took place. His mind was entirely freed from the bonds of sensual craving for existence and ignorance. A peace beyond measure, a joy never before known flooded through him, and then a certainty arose. He knew, directly and without doubt, that he was liberated. He declared with unshakable conviction, not as a matter of faith, but as direct realization, "Birth is ended, the holy life has been fulfilled. What had to be done has been done. There is no return to this state of existence." This was the summit of enlightenment, the final answer to the problem of suffering. With this insight, the picture was complete. The knowledge of past lives revealed the journey itself. The divine eye revealed the laws governing that journey. The knowledge of the destruction of the taints revealed the way out of the journey. It shifted the focus from merely understanding samsara to actively transcending it. The problem, the Buddha realized, does not lie out there in better or worse realms. It lies in here, in the mind of each being. And so too does the solution. The entire path of Buddhist practice is built upon this insight. The goal is not simply to secure a better rebirth, but to reach the state where there are no more rebirths at all, nirvana, the complete extinction of suffering. Chapter 2, the Code of Existence, Non-Self and Dependent Origination. The three gates of wisdom opened to the Buddha a panoramic vision of the universe of samsara. He saw the endless journey across countless lifetimes, understood the law of cause and effect governing that journey, and discovered the way to end it. Yet among all these discoveries, there was one foundational truth, a code of existence, subtle yet revolutionary, that completely transformed the understanding of human beings and the world. This was the doctrine of non-self, anatta, and dependent origination, paticca-samuppada. It is precisely here that truth becomes most shocking to our ordinary perception. 2.1. The shocking truth of non-self, anatta. To grasp the radical nature of the Buddha's discovery, we must place it in the context of Indian thought at the time. The prevailing philosophy, especially that of Brahmanism as expressed in the Upanishads, strongly affirmed the existence of an eternal, unchanging individual soul called Atman. According to this view, the Atman was the true essence of every human being, an entity unborn and undying that temporarily resided in the body. When the body died, the Atman would leave and take on another body, much like changing old clothes for new ones. Thus, the cycle of rebirth was understood as the journey of the Atman across many lifetimes. This was a natural and comforting belief, answering the deep human longing for permanence, a hope that there is a self that will not be destroyed by death. However, after attaining the threefold knowledge, tevijja, the Buddha reached a completely opposite conclusion, a discovery that became the cornerstone of his entire teaching. Using enlightened wisdom to analyze objectively and thoroughly what is called a person, he broke it down into 5 aggregates, or 5 groups of constituents, known as the 5 aggregates, Pali, Pankakanda, form, rupa, the physical dimension, including the body, sensory organs, and external material world. 5, feeling, sensations and emotions arising from contact between senses and objects, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. 6, perception, sanya, the process of recognition, cognition, labeling, and forming concepts about things. 7, mental formation, sankhara, volitional activities, psychological reactions, tendencies, habits. This is where karma is created. 8, consciousness, vijnana, bare awareness, the knowing of the senses, visual consciousness, auditory consciousness, etc., and the mind. Looking deeply into these 5 aggregates, from the outer physical shell to the most subtle mental processes, the Buddha found no trace of any enduring self, no soul, no eternal Atman. Instead, he saw that all 5 aggregates are governed by the 3 universal marks, tilakkhana, impermanence, anicca. They constantly arise and pass away, changing moment by moment. suffering, dukkha. Because they are impermanent, they cannot provide lasting happiness. Their nature is unsatisfactory. Non-self, anatta, they have no core essence, no true owner, just impersonal processes operating through dependent conditions. But if there is no permanent soul migrating from life to life, what is it that gets reborn? This is the most shocking and puzzling point. The Buddha explained this with profound metaphors. Imagine a burning candle. As it is about to extinguish, one uses its flame to light another candle. Is the flame of the new candle the same as the old one? No, not exactly. But is it completely different? Also no, for it arises directly from the conditions of the previous flame. Rebirth is like this. It is not the transfer of a thing, a flame, but the continuation of a process, burning, a stream of karmic energy. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, a modern teacher, illustrated this continuity with the image of clouds and rain. The cloud transmigrates into rain, and the rain transmigrates into tea. When I drink tea in mindfulness, I see that I am drinking clouds. The tea is the continuation of the rain, and the rain is the continuation of the cloud. The deeper meaning of non-self is profoundly liberating. It reveals that our greatest fear, the fear of annihilation at death, and our greatest hope, the hope for an eternal soul, are both based on a mistaken premise, the belief in a solid, independent self. The shocking truth is this: there is no thing to be destroyed, and there is no thing to be made eternal. Liberation does not come from preserving or extending the existence of this self, but from realizing that it has never truly existed in the first place. This is a complete reversal of the conventional notion of the journey of the soul. The journey is real, but it is the journey of causal processes, not of an immutable traveler. 2.2. The engine of samsara. The 12 links of dependent origination, paticcasamuppada. If the doctrine of non-self answers the question of what does not get reborn, then the doctrine of dependent origination, specifically the 12 links, paticcasamuppada, answers the question of how the process of rebirth continues seamlessly without a soul. This is the engine of samsara, the detailed blueprint of the psychological machinery that generates suffering and bondage. The Buddha declared, "Whoever sees dependent origination sees the Dharma. Whoever sees the Dharma sees me." The 12 links describe a chain of 12 causal conditions where the existence of one link gives rise to the next. Like a psychological domino effect, once set in motion, it perpetuates itself, forming a closed cycle of suffering. The chain operates as follows. 9. Ignorance, avidya, the first link and root of all. This is the failure to see the Four Noble Truths, the delusion about the impermanence, suffering, and non-self nature of phenomena. Because of ignorance, we mistakenly believe there is a self to defend and that external objects can provide lasting happiness. 10. Volitional formations, sankhara. Out of ignorance, we create intentional actions karma through body, speech, and mind. These leave imprints, latent energies within the stream of consciousness. 11. Consciousness, vijnana. The karmic energy from past volitions conditions the arising of rebirth consciousness in this life, beginning at conception, the psychological seed of a new existence. 12. Name and form, nama-rupa. Along with consciousness, the mental factors, name, feeling, perception, volition, and physical form, the body, begin to develop in the womb. 13. Six sense bases, sayatana. The six faculties, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind mature, preparing for interaction with the external world. 14. Contact, phassa. The meeting of sense bases with sense objects, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought. This is the gateway through which we experience the world. 15. Feeling, vedana. From contact, feelings arise automatically, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. This is a crucial juncture in the chain, the point where intervention is possible. What happens next determines whether we continue spinning in samsara or not. 16. Craving, tanha. When pleasant feelings arise due to ignorance, we generate craving, the desire to hold on to and repeat them. When unpleasant feelings arise, we crave their disappearance. This craving is the main fuel of the samsaric engine. 17. Upadana. Craving develops into clinging, attachment. We not only desire, but also cling to the object of desire, making it part of me and mine. Here, craving deepens into entanglement. 18. Becoming, bhava. Clinging generates powerful karmic energy, a process of becoming. The mind begins creating scenarios and strategies to maintain existence or achieve its attachments. These actions form the karma that determines the next life. 19. Birthi. The energy of becoming leads inevitably to birth into a new existence in one of the 6 realms, depending on the nature of the karma. 20. Aging and death, Jaramaran. Once there is birth, aging and death follow inevitably, along with sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. From death and the ignorance within it, the cycle begins again. The 12 links provide a moment-to-moment mechanism of the great cycle of samsara. They reveal that samsara is not a place we are trapped in, but a process we continuously generate through craving and clinging. This insight carries tremendous power. If we are the makers of the cycle, we also hold the key to end it. The solution lies in breaking the chain, especially at the pivotal link between feeling and craving. By practicing mindfulness and wisdom, we can observe sensations without reacting with craving or aversion. Then, the samsaric engine loses its fuel and ceases to run. Chapter 3. Fragments from Countless Lifetimes, Lessons from the Bodhisattva's Journey. The Buddha's discoveries about past lives, karma, and non-self are not dry philosophical abstractions. They are vividly and inspiringly illustrated in a vast treasury of stories known as the Jataka tales. These are not mere myths or fables. In the Buddhist tradition, they are regarded as authentic case studies drawn from the Buddha's own countless lifetimes as a bodhisattva, a being on the path of cultivation leading to Buddhahood. These stories show that the path to enlightenment is not an achievement of a single lifetime, but the outcome of a long process of training and cultivating virtues, known as the paramitas, over an immeasurable span of time. Each Jataka story is a fragment, a practical lesson on how the law of karma operates, and how a being, through each small action and ethical choice, can gradually purify the mind and move closer to liberation. Let us look at 2 exemplary stories that illuminate this great journey. 3.1. The Power of Virtue and Selflessness. The story of King Mahasilava. The Mahasilava Jaka, the tale of the greatly virtuous king, is a powerful testimony to the strength of moral virtue, sila, patience, khanti, and nonviolence, even in the face of grave injustice and mortal danger. In one past life, the Bodhisattva was reborn as the king of Varanasi, named Mahasilava, meaning the one of great virtue. He ruled with extraordinary kindness, governed according to Dharma, gave generously to the poor, and observed the 5 precepts strictly. One day, a minister of his committed a crime with a palace maid and was banished. Harboring resentment, the minister defected to the neighboring kingdom of Kosala and incited its king to invade Varanasi. He told the Kosalan king that Mahasilava was weak, concerned only with virtue and not with war, and therefore could be easily defeated. To test this, the king of Kosala sent soldiers to plunder a border village of Varanasi. When the soldiers were captured and brought before King Mahasilava, instead of punishing them, he asked about their situation. Learning they acted out of poverty, he gave them money, counseled them to avoid wrongdoing, and released them. Twice more, the Kosalan king escalated his attacks, but each time Mahasilava responded with compassion and restraint. Convinced that Mahasilava posed no resistance, the Kosalan king marched with his full army to conquer Varanasi. The generals and soldiers of Varanasi, fierce warriors, begged the king to let them fight. But Mahasilava firmly refused. "I will not allow beings to suffer for the sake of this kingdom. I will not permit war." He ordered the city gates opened and surrendered peacefully. He and his loyal ministers were captured and taken to a charnel ground, buried in the earth up to their necks so that jackals might devour them by night. Even in this desperate state, Mahasilava bore no hatred. At midnight, a pack of jackals arrived. When the leader approached, the king bit its neck with all his strength. In pain and terror, the jackal howled and thrashed violently. Its cries frightened the pack away, and its struggles loosened the soil around the king's head. Mahasilava freed himself and rescued his ministers. At that moment, 2 yaksas, spirits, were quarreling over a corpse. Unable to agree, they asked the king to arbitrate. He agreed, but requested first to bathe. The yaksas, using their powers, fetched scented water, fine garments, and even the precious sword of the Kosalan king, who was sleeping in his palace. After bathing, Mahasilava divided the corpse fairly. Grateful, The Yakshas transported him directly into the bedchamber of the Kosalan king. Standing over his sleeping enemy with sword in hand, Mahasilava could have ended his life. Instead, he gently tapped the king's stomach with the flat of the blade. Awakening in terror, the Kosalan king saw Mahasilava before him with his own sword. Mahasilava recounted the entire ordeal. Overcome with shame and admiration for such unwavering compassion and virtue, the Kosalan king apologized, restored Varanasi, and punished the treacherous minister. This story teaches a profound lesson on karma. The Bodhisattva's nonviolence and adherence to virtue, though seemingly weakness at first, created unexpected conditions, the jackal, the yakshas that freed him. It proves that the power of ethics and compassion, in the long run, surpasses that of armies and weapons. 3.2. The power of perseverance and resolve. The story of King Mahajanaka. If the story of Mahasilava extols the strength of virtue, the Mahajanaka Jaka, the tale of the great birth, is a stirring saga of perseverance, virya, resolve, and unwavering determination, another essential virtue on the Bodhisattva's path. In another life, the Bodhisattva was born as Prince Mahajanaka. His father was slain by his own brother, who usurped the throne while the queen was pregnant. She fled and raised the prince in hardship. As a young man, upon learning the truth, Mahajanaka resolved to reclaim his father's kingdom. To gather wealth, he boarded a merchant ship for trade. Fatefully, the ship was wrecked by a great storm in the middle of the ocean. All aboard panicked, prayed in despair, and perished, either drowning or being devoured by sharks. Alone, Mahajanaka remained calm. He ate to sustain himself, rubbed oil and sugar on his body to resist the seawater, and climbed the mast. When the ship sank, he leapt far clear of the deadly whirlpool. Adrift in the boundless sea with no land in sight, he began to swim. Day after day, night after night, for 7 full days he swam tirelessly without giving in to despair. His extraordinary perseverance moved the sea goddess Manamekala, whose duty was to rescue the virtuous and steadfast. Neglectful of her duty for 7 days, she finally noticed this lone man, still struggling, still striving without hope of survival. She appeared and asked, "Man, you know there is no shore in sight. Why do you continue this futile effort?" Mahajanaka replied, "O goddess, I believe in the power of effort. As long as I live, I must strive. To give up, that is the true failure." Deeply impressed by his words and indomitable will, Manamekala saved him and carried him to Mithila, his ancestral kingdom. At that very time, the reigning king, his uncle, had died without an heir. By decree, whoever could solve certain riddles and prove worthy of Princess Sivali would inherit the throne. With his wisdom, Mahajanaka passed all trials and regained the crown. This tale conveys the essence of perseverance. It shows that the outcome is not always the most important. What matters is unceasing effort in the present. Even in seemingly hopeless circumstances, the energy of persistence can bring about miraculous change and unexpected help. The Jataka stories, like these 2 examples, breathe life and emotional depth into abstract doctrines of karma and rebirth. They show that enlightenment is not a shortcut, but a majestic journey of character cultivation across innumerable lives. Cause and effect are made clear. Consistent practice of virtues, paramitas, directly leads to favorable rebirths and ultimately to liberation. They make the concept of accumulating merit tangible and inspiring, urging us to begin our own cultivation through even the smallest acts of goodness in daily life. The mirror of past lives and your path today. The Buddha's all-night journey beneath the Bodhi Tree was not merely a great spiritual event of history. It is a mirror reflecting the deepest truths of existence. His discoveries about past lives, karma, and the nature of self opened a wholly new path for humanity to understand and transform suffering. Though revealed over 25 centuries ago, these insights remain strikingly relevant and practical for our complex modern lives. 1. The mirror of karma and the freedom of choice. Summarizing the core discoveries, we see a panorama both astonishing and hopeful. First, the existence of countless lives is a reality. Our present life is neither beginning nor end, but a chapter in an endless book. Second, the law of karma is an impartial, precise, universal law, governing the wandering of beings through realms. Every intentional act, word, and thought is a seed that will bear fruit. Finally, the most shocking truth: there is no permanent soul or self undertaking this journey. What we call I is merely a temporary aggregation of the five aggregates, an ever-changing stream of psychophysical processes shaped by karma. At first, this may seem unsettling, even fatalistic. If everything is karma, do we have any freedom? The Buddha's answer is a powerful affirmation of freedom. Precisely because there is no fixed self, no predestined essence, we can change. Understanding karma does not bind us to the past. It reveals the immense power of the present. Every moment is a crossroads, an opportunity to choose. We cannot undo past deeds, but we can decide what seeds to plant now. Far from being slaves of fate, we are the architects of our future. 2. Living with the vision of past lives. Applications in modern life. Receiving these insights is not merely intellectual. It can transform how we live, feel, and relate to the world. Cultivating compassion. When we truly understand that all beings, even those who hurt or annoy us, are also adrift in samsara, driven by karmic forces and ignorance beyond their control, anger and hatred naturally subside. In their place arises empathy and deep compassion. We see that all are struggling in the same ocean of suffering, and the task is not to fight, but to help one another reach the shore. Transcending ego and fear of death. Modern life urges us to build strong, successful egos. But the teaching of non-self reveals that clinging to this illusory I is the root of anxiety and suffering. Seeing the self as a temporary process, we become less arrogant in success, less crushed by failure. Most importantly, humanity's greatest fear, the fear of death, diminishes. Death is not the end of an entity, but a transition in a flow of energy, a change of form like clouds dissolving into rain. Thus we face impermanence with greater serenity and courage. Finding meaning in suffering. One of life's deepest questions is, why must I suffer? Karma and rebirth provide an answer not to blame, but to find meaning. Instead of viewing suffering as senseless punishment or cruel chance, we can see it as the fruit of seeds we ourselves once sowed. Facing suffering becomes a chance to exhaust old karma, to purify negative energies. More than that, it becomes a lesson, a reminder to practice patience, develop wisdom, and sow better seeds now for future happiness. 3. Modern echoes, where science and spirituality meet. Though the Buddha's insights came from inner realization, intriguingly, in the last century, certain scientific fields have begun exploring similar questions, opening a promising dialogue between science and spirituality. One notable body of work is that of Dr. Ian Stevenson, psychiatrist at the University of Virginia. Over 40 years, he investigated thousands of cases of children who spontaneously recalled what seemed to be past life memories. His meticulous studies eliminated fraud and memory errors. Many cases showed astonishing details. A child describing a life in a distant town unknown to the family, birthmarks matching fatal wounds of a deceased person believed to be their prior incarnation, or innate phobias, fear of water, planes, linked to past life deaths. Dr. Stevenson's work did not prove reincarnation in the strict scientific sense, but amassed a vast body of suggestive data, challenging the materialist assumption that consciousness is only a brain product that ends at death. Yet here lies a crucial difference. While Stevenson's cases imply continuity of a personality or memory, the Buddha's teaching goes deeper. Buddhism does not require a permanent soul to explain this, but speaks of the stream of consciousness, siddhasantana, and the transmission of karmic seeds, kamabija. Memories, habits, and tendencies flow from life to life, not as an object carried, but like a wave continuing. This dialogue continues, especially between Buddhism and modern neuroscience, on the nature of consciousness. Both seek to answer, what is consciousness? Can it exist beyond the brain? The quest continues, showing that the questions the Buddha posed 2,500 years ago remain urgent and timely today. 4. The path ahead, lighting your own lamp. Most importantly, we must remember, the Buddha did not recount past lives for us to dwell on the past. He revealed samsara not for resignation, but to stir urgency to seek liberation. And he gave us the tools, not complex rituals or blind faith, but a practical inner method, mindfulness. Mindfulness is the ability to observe what is happening in mind and body in the present, objectively and without judgment. Through mindfulness, we see the 12 links of dependent origination in motion. A feeling arises, craving follows, and grasping begins to form. Mindfulness allows us to pause at this crucial link. Instead of reacting, We can choose not to follow craving and grasping. Each time we do so, we break a link, depriving the wheel of samsara of fuel. The spiritual path the Buddha laid out is ultimately one of freedom and personal responsibility. He walked the path and drew the map, but each of us must walk it ourselves. His final words before entering nirvana encapsulated this spirit. Monks, be a lamp unto yourselves. Be your own refuge, with no other refuge. Take the Dharma as your lamp, the Dharma as your refuge, with no other refuge. All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive diligently for liberation. This is a call to action, placing the full responsibility and power of liberation into each person's hands. The truth of past lives, however startling, is ultimately a mirror, reflecting both the weight of past choices and the boundless potential of present ones. Your soul's journey is not to recover a lost self of the past, but to create a future of complete freedom and enlightenment through your own effort and wisdom, beginning here and now. Light your own lamp and walk on.